The old Broadway theater, draped in dark burgundy velvet and faded Roosevelt-era gold, breathed memories. Brando, Fonda, Hepburn once stood here. Now, Robert De Niro. But he wasn't performing, and that was more terrifying than any role. The studio lights were too bright. Robert sat in a creaking chair, reminding him, "You're not here for comfort." Before him, a glass of water, a sheet of pre-approved questions, standard. Television knew how to tame even icons. But not this time. De Niro stayed silent longer than the airwaves allowed. His face, familiar to anyone raised on VHS, now held something sacred. Fatigue, quiet dignity, and a shadow of forgiveness. But his eyes burned. A storm was brewing. "Robert," the host tried to ease the tension, "you've lived through several Hollywood eras. What changes and what stays the same?" De Niro lowered his gaze, then looked straight into the camera with the same piercing intensity as his taxi driver character once asked, "You talking to me?" "You know," he began slowly, "I recently reread Pope Francis's words before he passed. Many didn't pay attention then, but I didn't forget. He said something that stuck with me, like rust on iron." He paused. He said morality shouldn't be a privilege. That a world where old age is a sentence to isolation and poverty is shame doesn't need fixing. It needs to be turned inside out. He spoke of the church, but I heard something bigger. I heard about us, about America. The host shifted, smiling less. "Sorry, you mean what?" "I mean," De Niro cut in, voice steady, "we as a country have lost our moral compass. We call ourselves Christians, patriots, humanists, while seniors work at Walmart to survive the month. Doctors write bills, not prescriptions. My industry colleagues buy islands, while my Bronx neighbors sell wedding rings to pay for their grandkids' treatments." His voice didn't waver, but it carried a tension that made studios tremble, not from volume, but from truth. This isn't politics, it's rot, and it's long seeped into our society's bones. Pope Francis was right, but he wasn't heard. Maybe because he spoke too softly. So I'll say it hard. We've let dignity become a commodity. That's a crime. Dead silence in the audience. Even crew members with headsets used to the chaos of live TV froze. "I'm not young anymore," De Niro continued, "but as an actor, I know the final monologue hits hardest, and I'm done staying silent. Because if those with a voice don't speak now, tomorrow only respirators will." An assistant stirred in the corner. Some reached for phones. The script was off the rails. But that's what made it real, not a performance. "I don't want to die a celebrity who didn't try to change anything. I want to die a man who at least said it out loud." And he stood. No slamming, no drama, just rose and left. Like a priest after a sermon no one expected but everyone remembered. Social media erupted. Search engines buzzed. What did Pope Francis say about dignity before he died? Why is De Niro talking about society's crime? In the comments, not laughter, not satire, but thousands of lines from people who knew what he meant. "I paid $800 for insulin. I chose between eating or living. I'm 72, cleaning mall bathrooms because my pension isn't enough." He said what my senator should have said but didn't. What do you, viewers, citizens, people with experience, think of such statements? Should celebrities weigh in on societal issues, even at personal risk? Share what you feel is missing in today's public discourse. New York, Upper East Side. A conference room overlooking the park where donors sip coffee from ivory cups. He entered in a gray coat, alone, no cameras. The room held them all: streaming service tycoons, media moguls, cultural bankers, those who shape the nation's sense of good and evil through screens. "Robert," began a younger, polished man with consultant hands that never touched dirt, "we respect your stance, but you must understand, this is business. Your statement—" "I'm not interested," De Niro interrupted. "I didn't come to ask, I came to inform." Tension hung in the air. He pulled a thin stack of papers from his case. "This is a script," he said. "For a miniseries, 6 episodes. My final contract." "And?" And it's based on a real case. An elderly nurse dies because her pension fund collapsed after a private insurance company drained its assets. Based on a 2019 investigation that was buried. Dead silence. A producer coughed. Robert, you know we can't greenlight this. It's suicide. Those companies are our sponsors. You won't greenlight it? De Niro looked at each person in the room. Then I'll do it myself. I have a name, an audience, a reputation you haven't broken yet, and I'm done playing heroes who stay silent. That day, he was dropped from a premium streaming platform. Some networks temporarily postponed his films. Colleagues avoided mentioning him publicly. But on YouTube, the interview hit 42 million views in 3 days. The comments weren't from fans. They were from citizens. My mother was that nurse, she lost everything. I worked at that insurance company, I saw the schemes. He's telling the truth. I'm a Republican, but this man is my hero. A dimming light in a Manhattan apartment. On the table, a facsimile from the Vatican Library. Pope Francis's words, in a translator's hand. Morality is not a manual, it's a fight, and sometimes those no longer heard speak the loudest. Robert looked up. Across the table sat Megan, a journalist from an independent outlet, fired after exposing pharmaceutical companies. Her eyes burned with the same resolve as his. If we do this, she said, it's not just a series, it's a shot at the system. Then why fire blanks? He glanced at the screen. An open page. GoFundMe. Dignity. A series about what America's losing. 3 days. $11 million in donations. A week. Offers from directors who'd left Hollywood. 2 weeks. A Senate subpoena. Robert De Niro summoned as a public witness on corporate ethics. What would you do with a voice heard nationwide, knowing the system might silence you? Would you risk your career for the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. The sun just touched the roofs of old government buildings. From his hotel window, Robert De Niro stared at the cold capital, a city where words can cost your future. He hadn't slept. Since 5 a.m., one sentence looped in his mind. You can speak as I no longer can. A line from a letter sent to his New York address from the Vatican, a month before Pope Francis's death. He hadn't replied then, but today he'd answer publicly. On the table, a Senate hearing invitation, printed dryly, formally, like a summons. They offered him silence, a fine, a reputation-smoothing interview. But he chose the public stage. Today, he wasn't an actor. He was a man with one last chance to remind the world that art doesn't end at the credits. Journalists swarmed the steps. White microphones, cold asphalt, shouts. Showbiz over politics. What does De Niro know about economics? He walked slowly but firmly. Beside him, Megan, the young journalist who'd given him documents proving his claims. Pension fund manipulations, underfunding schemes by insurers, senators' silent agreements. What are you going to say? She asked. What they've long known but refused to hear. The Finance Committee. Dark wood panels, portraits of past senators, the smell of polish and sweat. Cameras rolled. The air felt like a courtroom before a verdict. A senator from Alabama, a burly man with a gleaming bald head and a voice trained for TV, began formally. Mr. De Niro, thank you for being here. But don't you think your statement undermines trust in institutions that ensure this country's economic stability? If truth is seen as a threat to stability, Robert replied calmly, then our problem isn't the truth, it's those hiding from it. A senator from Texas, a woman with sharp features. You're an actor. Isn't your duty to entertain, not lecture the public? I'm a citizen. Art isn't a circus. And if we can't ask questions, what's left of democracy? Do you confirm you quoted a private letter from someone who could no longer verify their stance? Pope Francis needs no verification. What he wrote wasn't rumor. It was a testament. Can you provide the text of that letter? I can, and I will now. Robert pulled out a worn envelope, looked at each senator, and read, When nations listen to bankers over teachers, the people suffer. If I stay silent, you must speak, not for glory, for conscience. This is his handwriting, his pain, and our curse if we stay silent. Senator from Illinois, are you accusing Congress of a conspiracy? I'm not accusing, I'm testifying about what I've seen, what tens of millions have felt but couldn't say aloud. What do you demand? Transparency, public audits, a ban on insurance schemes where human lives are worth less than quarterly reports. Are you advocating for economic reform? Number, I'm advocating for moral reform. Senator from Georgia, do you realize your presence here is political theater? Theater is when truth plays the shadow. Today, it's center stage. Are you prepared to provide the full letter for investigation? Yes, I've already sent it to the National Archives. Let history decide who spoke and who stayed silent. Do you have evidence of pension funding schemes? Yes, 134 pages of documents, including internal emails, deal approvals between corporate insurers and members of this committee, dates, signatures, accounts. Are you saying we're all criminals? I'm saying some here forgot what it means to serve. Pause. Cameras caught every gesture, every wrinkle on De Niro's face. He continued, I'm no hero. I'm an old actor who knows how bad scripts end. And we're all in one. Silence. A senator rose. What should happen after today's hearing? Someone needs to start listening, not to me, to those still unheard. The elderly diabetic choosing between medicine and heat. The veteran waiting hours for care. The teacher told to stay silent because politics isn't for the classroom. And Congress should fix this? Who else? If not you, why are we even here? The hearing ended. Robert left under flashing cameras and a storm of comments. Outside, he faced the press. His face was weary, but his voice was firm. Mr. De Niro, do you realize your statements could spark a political scandal? CNN. If not today, then when? We've called silence stability. I call it fear. And I'm not afraid anymore. Why you? Why not a politician or expert? NBC. Because I got a letter, not just on paper, a letter of conscience. I've seen the elderly die in lines, teachers work 2 jobs. I don't need a title to be human. Will society change because of your statement? ABC News. If someone turned on the TV today and felt their pain isn't invisible, that's already change. Are you backing a political party? MSNBC. No, I'm backing those who've been silent and now have a chance to be heard. What do you say to those who think you're just an actor overplaying his role? A voice from the crowd. I've played gangsters, fathers, loners, but no role taught me more than today. This isn't a performance, it's reality, and we're all actors in it. The question is, whose words are we speaking? Will you keep speaking out publicly? If needed, yes, but it'd be better if those finally heard to take the stage. What would you say to Pope Francis if he could hear you? Meghan, softly, from the back. Robert paused, looking up at the heavy, gray Washington sky. I'd say we didn't save the world, but we tried to tell the truth. Outside, Meghan waited. She handed him a sheet with a quote. The back of Francis's letter, which he hadn't read before. Truth doesn't die. It stays silent until it finds a voice. He smiled, not triumphantly, but with relief. At last. That night, America didn't watch talk shows or political dramas. They saw an old man who wasn't afraid to say what we've all felt for too long. Leave a comment. Has there been a moment in your life when you had to speak for those no longer heard? Which part of De Niro's testimony struck you most?